There's a sea chest at the foot of my bunk that has crossed to the far side of the world more times than most men leave their own county. And every single thing inside it has outlived a ship. I am going to show you 7 things every old whaler carried. 7 things that outlasted the whole voyage, and outlasted a good many of the men who carried them. 6 of them kept a man's body alive. The 7th is not a tool at all, and it is the one that mattered most. Stay with me, because the last one is the reason any of the others were ever worth carrying, and you will not understand it until you have seen the other 6. I will not waste your time telling you who I am. 50 years at sea, and this chest is the whole of what it taught me, packed into a box a man can carry on one shoulder. Everything in it earned its place the hard way, by being needed on a night when there was nothing else. A whaler did not carry what was pretty. He carried what worked and what lasted, because out there a thing that breaks when you need it is the same as a thing you never had. So nothing in this chest is grand. Every piece of it is worn and mended and older than it looks. That is exactly why it is still here, and why so many of the men are not. Let me start with the first, and the one nearly every man would name before any other. The first is the knife. Not a fighting knife, a working knife, a clasp knife, or a plain sheath knife, carried on a lanyard where a man could reach it with either hand, in the dark, half asleep, hanging upside down in the rigging. It was the one tool that did everything. It cut his food, and it cut his tobacco. It splattered the tar, and it whittled the pegs. And once or twice in a man's life, it did the only thing that mattered. It cut a fouled line in the half-second between a man and the deep, when a running rope had taken him by the leg and was dragging him over the side to drown. A whaler learned to open his knife one-handed before he learned almost anything else, because the day he needed it, he would have exactly one hand free and exactly no time. A good knife outlived the man who owned it more often than not. We buried the man, we kept the knife, and we passed it on. And somewhere out there a younger hand is carrying steel that has already saved a life its new owner will never hear about. I will tell you how a man got his first real knife aboard a whaler, because it was a kind of ceremony, though no one would ever have called it that. An older hand would watch a green boy for a voyage or two, saying nothing, and one day, without a word, he would press his own spare blade into the boy's hand and show him the one-handed open, over and over, until the boy could do it in the dark, in the wet, with his eyes shut and his heart going like a drum. And then the old hand would say the only lesson that ever mattered about it. This is the one you reach for when there is no time to think, so your hand must already know the way, without you. The boys who took that to heart lived. The ones too proud to practice a thing so simple were the ones we lost to a fouled line, fast, before a man could even finish shouting their name. That is the first. Here is the second, and it is the one that taught me what kind of trade I had really signed into. The second is the sailmaker's palm. It is a simple thing, a band of leather that fits over the hand, with a hard dimpled iron set into it to sit against the heel of the thumb, so a man can drive a heavy needle through canvas thick as a board without tearing his own hand to ribbons. The sails were canvas, and canvas tiers, and a ship with torn sails is a ship that does not move, and a ship that does not move in the wrong waters is a ship that dies. So the palm and the needle kept us sailing. Every man aboard could throw a stitch in a sail by need, and the palm was what let him do it through the heaviest cloth, hour after hour, in the cold. But that is not the thing about the palm that I have never been able to set down. Because the same palm that sewed the sails that kept us alive was the same palm that sewed the dead into the sea. When a man died on a long voyage, far from any ground that would hold him, we did not have a coffin and we did not have a churchyard. We had canvas and a needle and the palm. We sewed him into his own hammock, with a shot at his feet to carry him down, and we put the last stitch through the bridge of his nose, partly to be certain the canvas held, and partly, the old hand said, to be certain he was truly gone and not just deep asleep. I have done it. I have sewn a man I ate beside that morning into the cloth he slept in, with the same palm I had used the day before to mend a topsail, and I have stood while we tipped the board and let the sea take him. The same small leather tool for the living and the lost. There is no object in that chest that has taught me more about what this life costs than that one. Stay with me. The next one is smaller, and it sounds like nothing, and it is the reason all the others worked at all. The third is the fid, the marlin spike. It is a tapered length of hard wood or bone, smooth as a worn stair, and it does one thing. It opens the lay of a rope so a man can splice it, work it, join one line to another so the join is as strong as the rope itself. And here is what folk on land never understand about a ship. A ship is not held together by its timber. It is held together by its rope, miles of it. The rigging that holds the masts, the lines that work the sails, the gear that hunts the whale, all of it is rope, and rope frays and parts and must be worked and rejoined every single day, or the whole thing comes apart in the first hard blow. The man who could not work rope was dead weight, a passenger, a mouth. The man who could, with a fid and 2 good hands, was worth his place 100 times over. That spike was the key to the one skill that separated a sailor from a body that happened to be aboard a ship. The man who taught me to splice was an old rigger with 2 fingers gone, and he could work a rope faster with the 8 he had left than any whole-handed boy aboard. He told me a splice was a kind of promise, that the join you made in the calm was a promise to every man who would one day trust his whole weight to that line in the blow that was surely coming. A bad splice was not laziness, he said. It was a lie you told the sea, and the sea always came to collect. I have hung my full weight 100 feet up in a screaming wind on a splice I made with my own hands by a fid no grander than this one. And the knowing that it would hold is the nearest thing to peace a man ever finds up there. The fourth is humbler still, and most men forget it entirely until the day it has already ruined them. The fourth is the whetstone, a flat gray stone, oiled, kept in an oilcloth, worth nothing to look at. And it is the most important tool in the chest, because every other edged thing aboard is useless without it. A knife is not a knife once it goes dull. It is a heavy, dangerous, frustrating bar of metal that will slip and cut the man using it sooner than the thing he is cutting. The grandest blade aboard, the finest steel any man owned, was a butter knife by the 3rd month of hard use without a stone to bring it back. The whetstone is the thing that keeps the other things alive, and I have come to think that is the truest lesson in the whole chest, that the grand tools get the glory, but it is the small, dull, patient thing nobody notices, the thing that does the quiet work of keeping everything else sharp, that decides whether any of it works at all. A crew is the same. A life is the same. Mind your whetstones. There was a man on one of my ships the others called Keen, not for his wit but for his edge. His blade would part a falling hair, and he spent every idle hour with the stone going, that slow, wet hiss, back and forth, while the rest of us did nothing. We mocked him for it, the way young men mock anything that looks like fuss. And then came the day a line went taut around a shipmate's arm and began to take it off, and the only knife within reach was Keen's, and it went through clean in a single draw, and a man kept his arm and his life because one quiet fellow had cared about a dull gray stone when nobody else could be troubled to. We did not mock him after that. We kept our own stones going, that same slow hiss all over the ship, like a kind of prayer. The fifth kept the cold from killing a man slow. The fifth is the oilskins, the tarred coat, heavy canvas, soaked and re-soaked in oil and tar until it turned the water, with a hat to match that ran the rain off a man's neck instead of down it. It was stiff, and it stank, and it cracked at the elbows, and a man patched it and reproofed it and patched it again for years, because the alternative was being wet, and at sea, in the cold. Wet is not a discomfort. Wet is the beginning of the end. A wet man loses his heat, and a cold man loses his strength, and a man with no strength in a hard sea is a man the next wave takes. The oilskins were not about comfort. They were the thin, tarred wall between a man and the slow death that the sea hands out to anyone foolish enough to think a little water never hurt. No whaler ever threw his oilskins away. He mended them until they were more patch than coat, because a new thing untested is worth less than an old thing that has already proven it will hold. I remember a night off the ice edge so cold the spray froze on the rigging and the ropes turned to bars of iron in our hands, and the only men still able to close their fingers and work were the men in good oilskins who had stayed dry. The two who had let theirs rot, who had told themselves a little wet never hurt a hard man. By the middle watch they were shaking so deep they could not grip a line, and we had to send them below and do their work atop our own. The sea does not care how hard a man is. It cares only whether he is wet. The oilskins were the whole difference between a working man and a shivering passenger, and they cost nothing but the trouble of keeping them mended. The sixth keeps no part of the body alive at all, and the old hands would have fought you before they gave it up. The sixth is the pipe and the tobacco. Now a younger man will tell you that is a vice and not a tool, and on land he would be right. But you have never spent 3 years on a vessel the size of a house with the same 40 men and nothing on the horizon but more horizon. You do not know what the empty months do to a man's mind. The sameness, the silence, the slow grinding boredom that is its own kind of danger. Because a mind with nothing to hold on to starts to come apart, and a crew of unraveling minds is a powder keg. The pipe was the small ritual that gave a man's day corners. The tobacco was comfort, and it was also money. The truest currency aboard, traded for favors, for work, for forgiveness, hoarded and gambled and shared. Men traded their food rations for it, which sounds like madness until you understand that food kept the body and tobacco kept the mind. And a body with a broken mind does not come home either. It was not survival. It was the thing that made survival bearable, and on a long enough voyage, those are not so far apart. I once watched 2 men who had not spoken a civil word in a year, over some old grievance neither could even name anymore, make their peace at last over a shared pipe in the dog watch, passing it back and forth without a word, because there are things a man cannot say but can offer, and a pinch of tobacco from someone who has little of it is one of them. And I watched a sour, silent month nearly break a crew, until one fellow brought out a hoard he had been saving for himself and shared it round for no reason at all, and the whole forecastle softened for an evening, just enough to hold. It is a small magic, but on a long voyage small magic is the only kind there is, and the men who scorned it as weakness were as often as not the first to come apart in the quiet. So those are the 6. The knife, the palm, the fid, the stone, the oilskins, and the pipe. 6 things that outlasted the voyage, and kept a man's body and his mind in one piece long enough to see land again. Any old whaler would have named you most of them, but I told you at the start that there were 7, and that the 7th was not a tool, and that it was the one that mattered most. So let me open the bottom of the chest, the part a man does not show, and tell you about the 7th thing. The 7th is the keepsake. Every man had one. Down at the bottom of the chest, wrapped in oilcloth against the damp, under the spare shirt and the tobacco, every man kept one small thing that did nothing. A letter from a wife, read so many times the creases had gone soft, as cloth and the words were half worn away, though it did not matter, because he had long since stopped reading it and started only holding it. A lock of a child's hair, a little carving a man made of someone he could no longer quite picture, a Bible thumbed not for the scripture but because a hand he loved had once held it, a thing of no use whatsoever, a thing you could not eat, could not trade, could not mend a sail with or cut a line with or sharpen on a stone, a thing that, by every reckoning a whaler lived by, had no business taking up space in a chest where every other object had to earn its keep with work. I knew a harpooner once, a giant of a man with hands like grapnels, who could stand in the bow facing a wounded bull whale without his pulse so much as quickening. And every single night of a 4-year voyage, in the dark of the forecastle, he took out a child's small wooden horse, no bigger than his thumb, a thing his daughter had pressed into his hand at the dock, the morning we sailed, and he held it a moment and put it away again, and never once spoke of it, and would have flattened any man who dared to laugh. He came home, men stronger than him, and better fed, and drier, did not, and I have thought ever since that the little wooden horse had more to do with his coming home than all that terrible strength in his hands. And it was the most important thing any of them carried, because here is the truth that 50 years at sea finally taught me, and it is the answer to the whole of it. The gear keeps the body. The knife and the stone and the oilskins, the palm and the fid and the pipe, every one of them is in service of keeping a man breathing. But a breathing man is not the same as a living one, and the body is not the thing that decides whether a man comes home. I have seen men with every tool in perfect order, strong and fed and dry, simply stop, lie down in a hard stretch and quietly give the sea what it was asking for, because somewhere along the empty months they had let go of the reason to keep holding on. And I have seen men who should have been dead 3 times over, frozen and starved and broken, drag themselves through another day and another on nothing but a soft creased letter at the bottom of a chest and the face it brought to mind. The keepsake had no use. The keepsake was the only thing that mattered, because it was not a tool for staying alive, it was the reason to. That is the thing that truly outlasted the voyage. Not the steel, not the leather, not the stone. They wore, and they broke, and in the end they were only objects. The thing that outlasted everything was the small, useless, irreplaceable thing a man carried to remind himself that the voyage was meant to end, that there was a shore with his name still spoken on it, that he was not just a body the sea was slowly wearing down, but a man with somewhere to come back to. Take the knife from a whaler, and you have made his work harder. Take the keepsake from him, and you have taken the thing that was holding the rest of him together. So that is the chest. 7 things. 6 that earned their place with work, and 1 that earned its place by being worth more than all of them. And if you take one thing from an old man emptying his sea chest for you, let it be this: carry your good tools, and keep them sharp, and mend them when they break. But know which of your things is the keepsake. Know which one has no use at all, and is the only one you truly cannot lose. Because the voyage, whatever yours is, will try to wear you down to just a body that keeps moving. And the small, soft-creased, useless thing at the bottom of your chest is the one that will remind you that you were ever more than that. So tell me, down in the comments, what is yours? What is the small, worn, useless thing you would never go without? The one with a whole life folded up inside it. Put it below. I would like to know what is keeping the rest of you holding on. Next time, I'll tell you about a quieter killer than any storm. The slow one the officers could watch take a crew apart, week by week, a thing they could see coming for months and could not stop. And the cure for it that sat in the ship's own stores the whole time, if any man aboard had only known how to use it. Until then, mind your fire and keep close the one thing worth coming home for.